All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rechakodash. Double honors to the apostles, the elders, the bishops, the great millstone, and salutations to all Akim out there pushing his truth and all truth and sincerity diligently throughout the four corners. I'm the brother Shabar Amath from Great Millstone, Miami. Also from the camp of Great Millstone, Southwest Florida, out here in the Fort Myers area. Coming to you, Akim wa Akwath, with another quick lesson. And Lord's will this lesson be quick, edifying, and straight to the point. All right. It serves as a correction, a reproof, a rebuke. All right, and as well as an exhortation to you brothers that's out there laboring in this truth. Okay. This particular lesson, is mainly for the younger brothers, the brothers that are just getting set up with, somewhat of authority over brothers, because as the camps grow, as the camps grow, there are times where, the leadership of the camps, ultimately have to distribute responsibilities, okay? And you may be a brother who may be over the troopers, you may be a brother that's over the young men, the young disciples, you may be a brother that's over the brothers that's on the outside. All right? We have to make sure that we are mindful on how we deal with these brothers, all right? Remember, okay, this is not our flock, all right? We're just here as stewards, so to say, all right? But these sheep belong to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, so we have to be mindful how we deal with them. All right, now in the aspect of today, what I want to talk about is in judgment, man. We got to be mindful how we deal with bros in judgment, okay? Now, I know I said this is for younger brothers, but this could also be for, us older brothers that's been in this thing a little longer, the vets, because sometimes, it may be a situation that, you move too quickly and you realize, damn, I should have slowed it down a little bit. So we just have to be mindful of that, all right? This is the book of Matthew 7:1. It says, judge not, that ye be not judged. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye meet, it shall be measured to you again. All right. Now, the scriptures is not telling us to not judge. All right. Because at the end of the day, we're in a position, okay, to judge the nations, judge our people. The Lord has placed us in this position, but we have to make sure that we judge with righteous judgment, okay? We're not supposed to be judging from a biased place when we come about these situations. We're not supposed to be judging with over anger, overly angry, overly frustrated. We're not supposed to let emotions get in the way when we're presenting these judgments or when we're making certain moves within the body and out in the world, man. All right. Everything has to be filtered and fall back to the scriptures, man. Okay. Because whatever judgment you dish out and however you deal with it, whether, let's say, you were angry and you put that judgment out in pure frustration and pure anger. Well, when it's time for the Heavenly Father to look upon you, all right, that frustration and anger that you had put out, the Lord is going to judge you in that same manner. All right. And we don't want that. We don't want that, man. Okay. Here it is. You're in a position, you're watching over the Lord's sheep, the Lord's flock. All right. And you just doing too much. You over whooping. When it's time for the Lord to visit you, the Lord won't do too much and over whoop, because it's like, damn, where was the mercy? Where was the understanding? All right. Why are you acting like you don't have no faults? that need to be measured and checked. How you know this situation with that particular brother wasn't something that brother just needed an admonishment on, all right, rather than a rebuke. All these things have to be put into proper perspective when you're judging one of the Lord's little ones, man. Okay, I'll read that in the G&T. All right, it says, "Do not judge others, so that God will not judge you. For God will judge you in the same way you judge others, and he will apply to you the same rules you apply to others." All right. So here it is. You coming forth with a judgment. You coming, oh, brother, you gotta X, you gotta do X amount of this and that. Oh, it should be done like this. Why you not doing this? Woo, woo, the bam. You know, the Lord is going to put that on you. All right. Now, granted, there are levels in how we deal with brothers and in the sense of what we do with brothers that the Lord sees. And if it's done in righteousness, remember, we're supposed to give righteous judgment. When it's done in righteousness, according to the scripture, the Lord sees, let's say if a brother, let's say if a brother, got a breakdown wrong. But this brother, has been on point where everything else, even in the breakdowns, he just may have had a slip. Instead of being so harsh on him, hey, brother, you got to do better here. Hey, you need to study on that more, brother. I know you got to, with the bam. Now, if the brother's just bullshitting all the time, which we've, I know in the Miami camp, we've come across that where motherfuckers just bullshitting, just all the time, bullshit. Nah, man, when the judgment was dropped on them, we perceived through the spirit that the Lord was with that judgment. And we got the nigga the fuck out of there. All right? Because it's like, damn, nigga, you not around, you unreliable, you can't get the breakdowns, nigga, you don't even know you can't even explain to us what your name mean in Hebrew. Nah, you don't need to be around us. Get the fuck from us, bro. Now that's a righteous judgment. That shows that that individual was not part of us and we got rid of him. But if it's a brother that's constantly showing up, constantly doing what he has to, and it was just a slip up, you got to deal with that brother with mercy, man. Because how much times you got to look at yourself in the mirror? How much times where you probably slipped up on a breakdown or on a particular understanding or on a Hebrew word, right? So you got to be mindful of that instead of doing what? Instead of doing too much and damn near willing to oust the brother because of one mistake, okay? And we got to be mindful of that, man. And we also got to be mindful on how we move too. We can't be too hasty when it comes to bringing judgments, man. We can't be too hasty when it comes to trying to regulate and solve these problems, man. Ecclesiastes 7:9. Be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry, for anger resteth in the bosom of fools. Now you pissed off just because of a slight error. Now you overly vexed. You willing to throw you damn near ready to throw the goddamn whole book at the brother, man. Nah, man. Be mindful. Be mindful. Be mindful, because the Lord is looking at you too. All right, and I'm speaking to myself first and foremost. Be mindful, brothers. The Lord is always watching us. Remember, the scriptures say the eyes of the Lord are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. Okay? Remember, Proverbs, the Lord said the Lord is beholding every way of man, roughly paraphrased. So be mindful. Okay? Proverbs 29:20. Seest thou a man that is hasty in his words? So quick to cast judgment, so quick to say something. You're not processing your thoughts, all right, before you open your mouth and say something. Okay? The spirit too, because yesterday, one of the big bro I'm on Gabar shorts popped up on my feed, and he was going into the mindfulness, and how mindfulness, basically there is a way that you ponder upon your thoughts, the things that you're thinking of before you say it, you're thinking about it. Basically you're processing your thoughts before you open your mouth. That's being mindful. You got to be mindful before you open your mouth, man. All right, you can't just be opening your mouth and blurting anything out, saying anything, because those words could come back and bite you in the ass, man. You know, the saying of the world is sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. But that's a bullshit lie. Words hurt. The scriptures tell you that tongue, although it's a small member of the body, it carries weight. Life and death comes from it, man. Okay? Remember, we say this every time, we quote this often, every other word, right? That man should say. Remember, the Lord is watching everything you do, everything you say, all right? It's being jotted, man. Everything you think, all right? That's why we oftentimes say what? When you get these off thoughts, you are to rebuke those thoughts immediately. You got to be mindful. Oh, shit, this thought is off. Why, Satan trying to slither in to make me look at a brother a certain way, to make me cast a certain judgment on a brother off of some prior shit, or off of just some emotional shit. Hey, Anyaga Arthashatan Bashimi Al get the hits for me, Satan. Arga Arthashatan Bashimi Al Bashimi Al get the hints for me, Satan. Ya Bashimi Al Salaki, Ya Bashimi Al Salaki call Khatayum all my sins, Baba Kashaya Bashim Al Shai. You know? You got Nathan ya Chazak Labia Chazak. Salaki brothers.
5'10" male with an average build. They say the backpack he was wearing is a black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack that is exclusively available at Walmart. I wonder.
He's still Salaki brothers, my fucking TV just unmuted and shit, still talking about this fucking kidnapping. But yeah, back to what I was saying, man. You gotta be mindful, man. There's ways to move, okay? Going to James 2:3, it says, for he shall have judgment without mercy that have shown no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth over judgment. All right, so we got to, again, be mindful, because if you want to judge without mercy, guess what? When it's time for your judgment to come, the Lord ain't going to show you no mercy, man. All right, and I could say, I've experienced this firsthand, not dealing amongst the camp, but, dealing amongst my actual house, man. Because, the Lord gave me a lot of, seeds or whatnot. And at times, I thought, I've done better at the Wadiya, but when first dealing with these children, Jake sometimes would just over whoop when it come to judgment. And come to find out, that judgment was either too severe or it wasn't even merited, because what I perceived was the issue was not the fucking issue at all, man. And guess what the Lord did? Jack my ass the fuck up. You know what I'm saying? Next thing you know, Jake in the shed, a big ass hammer fall on fall on your foot. You know what I'm saying? You walk in, your fucking knee that's already fucked up, and half meniscus tear gets fucking hit on the edge of the table. Now your fucking knee swollen, your knee just buckled. One morning you get up, now you just can't walk right. You know what I'm saying? You bend over to pick something up. All of a sudden, you feel a slight pop. Now your whole body distraught. You got a illness hit you. And you just got to sit there and realize, damn, bro. Salakia, y'all, Bashim, have mercy. But it's like, damn, you wasn't looking for mercy. You wasn't giving mercy. You know what I'm saying? So we got to be mindful, all right? And we got to be able to acknowledge as well when we are in error, because most of those situations that I found myself in, of course through prayer, but it was through acknowledging my fault, just, hey man, my bad, my bad, dog, I was wrong, I did too much, pray for your father, ask the Lord to forgive me, you know what I'm saying, and I hope you forgive me, and next thing you know, Jake, all right, but we got to make sure, all right, that we apply mercy as well when we judging one another, man. Okay, I'm gonna read that in the GNT. It says, "For God will not show mercy when he judges the person who has not been merciful, but mercy triumphs over judgment." All right. Micah 6:8. He hath showed thee, O man, what is good, and what doth the Lord Yahweh require of thee, but to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God. All right. So we are to do justly, man. Do what's right, man. All right. Really contemplate before you move. All right. Make sure it's coupled with mercy. All right. And walk humbly, knowing that at any given moment you could be in that position that the other person is in, man. All right. Again, just be mindful, brothers. Luke 6:36-37, it says, "Be ye therefore merciful, as your Father also is merciful. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven." And that's plain, man. That's plain. Okay? And the last precept I want to bring out is in 1 Maccabees 2:51. All right, because we got a call to remembrance. Sometimes we got a call to remembrance the acts of our forefathers, man. All right. And in this particular verse 57, we'll see who we talking about. Verse 51, it says, "Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time, so shall ye receive great honor in an everlasting name." Jumping down to verse 57, it says, "David, for being merciful, possessed the throne of an everlasting kingdom." And you read David's account, David was hella merciful, man. He could have offsaw. Shimei could have got it. All right. His own son Absalom could have got it. Hella folks came after King David and could have got, but he was merciful. All right. And guess what? The Lord repaid all that when King David did that off shit to Uriah the Hittite and committed adultery with Bathsheba. The Lord had mercy. All right, and ultimately kept David's spirit, man. Gave David now we have the sure mercies of David, man. Because of that mercy that man showed when he was walking on the earth. And King David was the king. If he wanted to, he could have dropped everybody like a bug quickly, hastily, like how some of these kings be moving, man. A nigga look at him wrong, man. Off with that nigga head, no! King David moved mercifully. He wanted to make sure that his judgments was right in the sight of the Lord, man. We have to call that to remembrance, all right? So with that, Lord's will, this lesson was edifying. I want to give again all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rechach, double honors to the apostles, the elders, the bishops, the great millstones, and citations to all the Akim out there pushing truth and all truth and sincerity diligently throughout the four corners. Shalom.